Educating students in rural settings is an important part of public education in America. More than half of all school districts and a third of all public schools are in rural areas. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, over 12 million students attend a rural public elementary or secondary school, accounting for 25% of all public school students. Unrecognized by most Americans and often overshadowed by the nation's attention to dropout challenges in urban settings, more than one-fifth of public schools in rural America have higher than average dropout rates. Because of their remote locations and more limited resources, schools in rural communities often have less access to high-quality technical assistance than schools in other communities. For this reason, the U.S. Department of Education's High School Graduation Initiative program provided dropout prevention support and technical assistance to grantees and districts across the country. In New Hampshire, schools are increasing graduation rates by offering a wide variety of alternative programs that recognize that one size does not fit all students. According to the U.S. Department of Education, nearly 1 in 4 students in rural areas will not graduate.
Here's your like terms.
Earning a high school education is essential for a path to future career success. Some of the strategies that are being implemented include offering acceleration opportunities so that young people can leave high school prepared to work or to go to college. Offering active learning opportunities so that students are full participants in the classroom. Assigning adult advocates to students at risk of leaving school so that youth have trusted advisors who care about them. Offering career and technical education options. And finally, creating alternative adult education programs that offer students a chance to attend class during non-traditional times of the day. In New Hampshire, offering a vast series of alternative options has been the driving force for reducing the state's dropout rate. Also, students who earn a high school equivalency certificate are no longer considered a dropout by the state. And finally, passing legislation that requires students to stay in school until they turn 18. Some successful dropout prevention strategies used in New Hampshire include adult high schools, career technical education centers, freshman integration programs, student advocates, and competency-based education. Other examples of dropout prevention strategies that have been successful in New Hampshire schools include extended learning opportunities, community support, extended school days, and multiple alternatives for students. Ultimately, though, it is the vision, the passion, and the commitment of the people of New Hampshire that have made education a priority, and therefore the state an example of success.
Yeah, I think first of all, you have to have a commitment that you value your students finishing high school. If you've got folks on board that don't believe that, that's going to be an issue because you can't make people care. But when you're in the hiring process, you look to hire people who are passionate about student success, then it becomes a lot easier, to come up with those programs and alternative routes for students to earn their diploma. But the adults in charge have to believe that students can be successful.
One of the high schools as leading the way in graduation in New Hampshire is Concord High School in Concord, New Hampshire, which also houses the Diploma Academy, an alternative program that operates in the evening and includes the high school equivalency preparation program. Although situated in an urban area of the state, Concord High School provides services to 9 surrounding rural schools. The students from these 9 rural high schools attend the Career Technical Center for 2-hour blocks of classes in specific career prep areas. Transportation is provided by the state via buses to and from the school.
I think that's another privilege, is that we have an opportunity to bring in students during the school day, sometimes with some of the tech programs definitely, and oftentimes we'll have a student who's participating in a tech program during the day who might also stay and take an advantage of a Diploma Academy class after school. The role that the Diploma Academy plays, and that includes a whole continuum of services, from programs during the school day to after-school programs to a high school equivalency program, and all the way up to our adult evening courses, offers students from 16 to 61 plus the opportunity to go back and either recover credit that they failed, or we're also doing now more active and integrated originator credits, we call them, so students can have an opportunity to work on projects that match their needs and their passions in order to earn credit to get ahead.
We've become a little more flexible, not as flexible as we need to, and we have more and more alternatives for students to think about how they can complete their education. This whole move in the state towards competency will help us enormously, because we won't be bound by the number of minutes that they sit in a class, but more by what they've achieved in terms of competency. So we also have what's called in this state extended learning opportunities, so that again, youngsters can achieve coursework and quote credit by doing experiences that are not in the classroom, that are in the community, or in some other kind of their passion. I think the other piece is to try to find what these youngsters are passionate about, what they're interested in, and to build on that, to recognize and have them recognize their own strengths and build a program around that. So I think we have staff and a system that's beginning to do that better than we ever did before.
2 hours north of Concord is North Conway, New Hampshire, the home of Kennett High School, the only high school in the Conway district and an excellent model of a rural high school.
Yeah, Kennett's a marvelous story. When we started the process I just described, they had the highest percentage dropout rate in the state. The superintendent became engaged in the process with the governor and our commissioner at the time, and made a pledge that he would reduce the dropout rate. He engaged all of the public leaders, including the businesses in town, and they agreed that they would not hire students unless they were continuing their education. And based on that and a number of other things he did in his plan, they reduced their dropout rate to 0 one year, and as you said, have maintained that over time.
What I've noticed is there's this unfortunate misconception that the only place you can learn is in a formal educational environment, and that throws me off. I don't like being thrown in with a bucket load of people and learning things standardized. I like to kind of ask questions, and it takes more time to teach me. You know, I'm slow, but once I get it, I get it. And I wasn't feeling that opportunity in day school, so I tried homeschooling, and that didn't work out well. So then I just kind of thought about just not schooling and learning everywhere else. And while that works, it'll take ages to learn as much as I can in a more casual learning environment. So that's why I'm here.
Well, obviously there's a lot of definitions of alternative programs, so I think I probably would take it from the perspective that in New Hampshire we were making a lot of efforts to transform public education, to be really, really engaged in making sure that our students want to be in school, that our programs are meaningful to them. So I think what you're seeing is, sort of a rethinking or a redesign process about how schools can be better, how we can make sure that people want lifelong learning, that school, right from kindergarten right through high school and college, has an important place in their lives. And I think that's what we're seeing throughout our entire state, rethinking, trying to get away from rules and regulations and trying to determine whether these things that we have in place, rules or regulations, really are a match for where we are in our nation right now and in our state.
I'm here because I chose to fool around most of my sophomore and freshman year, and that didn't get me very far. I was so gung-ho on I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to work, wherever I can find work after high school, and college isn't going to matter to me. And now I was last year at the point where I realized that's not really a viable option for a good future, and I was kind of stuck. I had, kind of gotten myself into this between a rock and a hard place, where I had to do something to pick up my grades, and just having a full schedule during regular hours from 7 to 2:20 wasn't going to cut it. I had to do something more. I tried an online class last year. That didn't work out, and I finally came back to Eagle, which was being offered to me many times, and I thought it was, I didn't think it was cool.
One of the other key elements is the freshman house, and that is our ability to take a large high school, because we receive students from 4 Sunday middle schools, and some of them are used to class sizes of 12 to 15 if they're coming from Waldorf, or 20 to 26 if they're coming from some of the smaller ones. And we found out when we did our student success task force that our student failure rate in the freshman house was 16.5%. So what we needed to do was to find a way to help ease our youngsters into that program and into the high school comfortably. So the freshman house is comprised of 3 teams, very much like you would see in the middle school team setting. 4 core teachers within each team, math, English, science, and social studies. And they have approximately 75 to 80 kids within their team. They get to know those kids very well. They're able to communicate with one another. Have you noticed something is going on with this youngster or that youngster? They're in close contact with parents. So kids quickly identify with the team. So they're gradually entered into the high school. They're able to take a couple of electives in the bigger school, but that small school feeling is maintained, and the ability for us to quickly get our hands around any problems that may be going on occurs. In conjunction with that, we have in the spring, the freshman transition night, where we bring parents and students in from all the Sunday schools to hear from the school, look at all the opportunities. We open up the school as well, just as if it was a regular open house, but this is entirely for the 8th graders. That would be the incoming freshmen. So they're able to have the run of the area and go to the different courses and classes and meet teachers and see what opportunities are there for this. We typically would have our drum line there. We have members of the National Honor Society welcoming in our newest Eagles so that they're made to feel as if they're being brought into the school. And then we've also added the last 2 or 3 years a thing called the Freshman Transition Day. And that is we start school early for half a day for our incoming freshmen. We run a full bus schedule. We bring them in when they're the only ones in the building. Again, we have members of, this year we had 35 members of our student leadership team was there. Again, they meet with their teams. They begin to meet for the very first time with kids that will be on their team as well. And they have their schedule, they meet their teachers, and they go to their locker, they get to turn it and figure out how to get into it. So those have been very, very successful. And the last piece of really helping those freshmen is the transition piece that's going on even as we speak now. Last Friday night, we had middle school soccer under the lights in Millen Stadium at 7 o'clock. And so all of the sending middle schools get together, we put them in, we mix them all up so they work together as a team. They'll play soccer in the fall, they play basketball in the winter, they'll play softball in the spring, and then they'll have a middle school dance as well. So these kids have been together now. We've already started that process several times before they even enter the high school. So we've taken a failure rate, freshman failure rate of about 16.5% initially, down to about 3.5%. And we know that if you start out being behind the 8 ball and the mountain seems that it was this high to climb for graduation and it's become this high because I failed it, it is much more difficult to be successful. So we've been able to reduce that down.
We didn't always have a dropout rate that hit 0, but back in, as a matter of fact, in 05, 06, we had a 7% dropout rate, which was the highest in the state at the time. When we came up with that highest rate in the state, we decided to do something about that pretty quickly. We brought together the whole entire valley. So this is a regional type high school, not a regional high school, but all the students from the Mount Washington Valley end up at this high school. We brought together the players from all of the towns, all of the business representatives, and said, how are we going to go about changing this dropout issue of 7%, the highest in the state? We put together a rather complex plan that involves probably 17, 18 different types of programs or initiatives that have allowed us to go from that 7% to 0. We made a pledge back then that we would do everything in our effort to get to a 0 dropout rate. And we did that.
We have students going on to 2-year to 4-year post-secondary, depending on the programs that they're in, and we work to try and build those connections for kids so that there are clear post-secondary pathways for them, whether they're going on to a community college and build further technical skills or on to a 4-year college. We're also offering an increasing number of industry-level certifications so that students can leave here with those certifications. So with an auto, we have a NATEF certification, a ProStart certification in culinary, and we've just recently started up an LNA program. So students can leave here with skills that they can put to work, get a job, high wage, high skill jobs, right here in the Mount Washington Valley or beyond. So another program is our machine tool program, and within that program, in addition to learning the various skills that are necessary to go out and become a machinist, our instructors built a connection with NASA through a program called NASA Hunch. And in that program, NASA is partnering with schools to make parts for various space-related endeavors. So right now they're working on building parts for lockers, and those parts will be used in a ground-based training for astronauts. And the students did so well on that the program was actually moved up to a research and development team. So they are now working on solving the problem of writing utensils for astronauts in space. So they are coming up with designs that they can use, and eventually these would be tested and ultimately possibly brought into space.
It's really great to be in this position and to be changing their lives and giving them some direction and some discipline, maybe in ways that they would never have the opportunity to have that. I am very strict on discipline in my class, and they are just excelling because of it. It's great. It's a great experience for anyone who takes my class. I'm very proud of the things that they're learning. I'm proud that obviously we're doing a good job because we're winning competitions and we're doing stuff for NASA. I mean, we must be doing something right. So I'm just proud of all of it. I'm really blessed to be a part of it.
The student advocate's role is to coordinate services for at-risk youth and to serve as a trusted mentor to these young people. At Kennett High School, Rochelle Cox is the student advocate and also the director of Eagle Academy.
I am the truancy officer, so the kids get to know me. I work with the SROs and the disciplinaries to ensure that students are coming to school and they build that relationship. So I hold students accountable, but they have a relationship with me to know that there are other ways to go to school. They work all day and they don't have time to go home. So as a student advocate, I overlap and assure that my students have a quality dinner once a night. And then I also work with the community members. So I have several the Realtors Association, Hannaford's, Shaw's, the churches of North Conway have all teamed with me to ensure that we provide clothing, food, shelter for all of our students that are at risk here in the Valley.
When it gets down to the last group of kids, the final 10 kids, you really have to go out and find out what those kids need. And it's a lot of times it's more than the academic piece. It's, they need to have a meal at night. They serve meals here at night to their Eagle Academy kids. What are the individual needs of those kids? What program gets that kid through high school and a graduation? And you really have to individualize it. And if you're willing to put those financial resources behind it to do that, then I think anybody can be successful.
You're coming into an area that I think is, very diverse, especially economically diverse. And so you're coming into a place where you have kids who are at the very, very top of academia and school involvement, and they're going on to the competitive schools. And then you have kids coming in who need a lot of help and support. And as Kate said, you have to be very flexible as a teacher coming in here, because some of them are going to come in and do what you want them to do, no questions asked, and do it very well. And others, like the young man I spoke about, are going to come in and say, I don't want to be here. I'd rather be turning a wrench. And you're responsible to treat those two different types of student with the same level of respect and the same professionalism. And that's, you know, be very flexible with what you do as a teacher. I mean, you may not be able to change the material, but you can change the vehicle, and you can make it less painful, I think, sometimes.
We've already had many successes to celebrate as a result of our numerous dropout prevention strategies put into practice by the state of New Hampshire. Let's hear about some of these accomplishments from the students themselves.
If it wasn't for Eagle Academy, I probably would never be on the path to going to college or even graduated. The teachers and the staff had my best interest at heart, and they helped me through everything I could have needed to get me to graduate. They didn't give up on me, and they just were always just a phone call away.
There are so many different sports and clubs here. I know I'm in 4 sports here at Kennett, and there are multiple other sports that I wish I was involved in. And I think that allows for a great opportunity for students, and it also gives them a goal to strive for, because you have to maintain a certain percentage of grades to be allowed to play sports. And I think that's really great because it helps students really work for something that they love. The abundance of extra school activities and teachers that are willing to put something into students so that students can get something out of their class really helps people become motivated to do well. I know I still have teachers from my freshman year that I go to when I need help, and they're still there to support me, and that makes me feel good, because that makes me feel like I can trust someone to work hard and that they're going to be proud of me when I accomplish whatever goal I set. And that goes for coaches, that goes for advisors, for my Key Club advisors, that goes for my parents. It's just something here, when you accomplish something, you're rewarded, and that can just make you feel good, and that makes you want to keep going, which is really great.
Every single faculty member in the school cares about every single student. There is not a student in the school that a faculty member does not passionately care about. I have so many teachers that I can go to. Any teacher, it cares about my education. They value where I'm going after high school, and they care about me excelling and all of my peers excelling.
I think the teachers are very welcoming, and they're not just trying to teach you, but they're making sure you're learning.
The way you guys are so patient and understanding of everybody's situation is definitely a beneficial thing. You know, you understand that not everybody is, some kids have more credits to recover than others, and the way that you are very understanding of everybody's situation and you take the time to help us understand is a really big thing.
Since starting the Diploma Academy, my plans have shifted. I now want to become a PhD in history with secondary school teaching degree and continue that into a high school, maybe a college educator.
And I think that it's very much connected to the pride that our rural schools take in having their students graduate, that it's really important. They know that it is the key to turning their lives around, and it's a huge part of the discussion in our rural communities. So I think from an instructional strategy standpoint, there's a lot of sharing of effective practices, a level of communication that says this is really important to our state and to our community. And the second to that is that they really want their students to come back. They want them to graduate, go on to college, and come back to their communities. So I think that's a big part of it. It's that pride. I'd like to think that most SEAs across the country are really rethinking what their role is. And New Hampshire our department is really committed to the fact that we are not a compliance agency. Our role truly is to support our schools, and that we need to be out in the field. We need to understand what they're dealing with, to be more aware of the complexities that schools are faced with today. So I see our role very, very simply as a support role, to be able to communicate to policymakers what schools need to be successful. And the other part of it is to really start and be more willing to listen to communities, what they want for their children to be successful.
School has a lot of written philosophies and vision statements. I think to sum it up in layman's terms, we believe that all of our students can be successful, and it's our job to design programs for those students so they can all experience success.
Hampshire.